Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Live at the Waterhole on this wonderful Saturday morning. The Saturday morning on my side. So we're starting today off at Victoria Falls. So Victoria Falls Safari Lodge. And we've got a few giraffe in picture over here. Enjoying the delicious leaves of these almost looks like acacia trees over here. So my name is Johan Herbst and I will be your presenter for today. So just a quick reminder that this is a live and interactive experience. We love to hear from you, so send your comments or questions through on our app or website or any of the different social media platforms displayed on the screen below. We see a couple of warthogs also in the foreground. Some pumbas busy grazing. So today I thought I would talk about animal adaptations. So I thought we'd talk about how animals living in many different environments, from hot deserts to freezing polar regions, to survive, they have special features and behaviors called adaptations. So these adaptations help them find food, stay safe from predators, and cope with challenges of their habitat. So at the waterhole, many different animals come together, each with unique adaptations that help them survive. So today we will be exploring these amazing animals and more, and discover how they are perfectly suited to the places they live. So can you think of any particular adaptations? So I already see some at play over here. So the long necks of giraffe, how they've evolved or adapted to have these very long necks. And there's lots of different theories as to why they have long necks, but the most plausible theory is so that they can compete against other browsers. So they're competing at a different level. So they're just competing. So we refer to that as intra-specific competition, when the giraffes are competing against one another, as opposed to inter-specific competition, where you have animals of different species competing for the same resources. So I've got a question here from Jane asking how many subspecies of giraffe there are now. So there are currently 9 subspecies, but there are 4 distinct species. So it's a bit debatable about which are the subspecies, which ones are considered subspecies, but currently there are 4 distinct species. And that is the northern giraffe, the southern giraffe, and the Maasai and reticulated giraffe. So 4 distinct species, and then there are some subspecies divided among the different distinct species. So Hannah is asking, what's the biggest herd of giraffe that I've ever seen? So thank you for your question, Hannah. It's quite, I need to think back to a particularly special giraffe sighting. There's not one in particular that stands out, but I've definitely seen some herds ranging between 20 to 30 giraffe, and mostly in the Kruger that I've seen such big herds of giraffe. Actually, the collective noun for giraffes is a journey of giraffe. So some of the other adaptations of giraffe is that they've got very long eyelashes. So these very long eyelashes are there to protect their eyes when they have their face squeezed in between the foliage which they eat. So when they have their heads stuck into the trees, then they're able to protect their eyes from the thorns and other debris that might get into their eyes. So they've got very long and thick eyelashes to protect their eyes. And then they've also got the males in particular have a very thickened skull, a very hard and dense skull. And this is to protect their skull from fracturing when they're using their heads to, almost like a baton, to try and knock their opponent over. So giraffe, they use their necks to try and injure a competitor. So they will swing their neck and try and either knock their competitor over or try and cause some serious damage. And so that's why they have these very thickened skulls. And sometimes you'll see in the male giraffe, they've got it almost looks like a third horn. It's actually more correctly referred to as a ossicomb. And so these ossicones are actually ossified cartilage. So when they're born, these horns are basically made of cartilage, and then over time, as they get older, they ossify. So which means they become calcified and hardened into bone. And so in males you have this third horn, which is located just above their eyes. So this is to protect, also another added protection for the giraffe and their skulls and their heads. So we refer to that as the median horn, the middle horn. Okay, I didn't quite get where we're going next, but let's see what's happening at some of our other cameras. Okay, it looks like we're at Safari Hook in Namibia, in Etosha Heights. And we've got some plain zebra in picture over here. They're swinging their tails around to get rid of those pesky flies. And so interesting that these zebras should come into picture, because I was actually doing a bit of research and a bit of preparation for today's show, and I read up quite a bit about the zebras and their stripes. And so there's lots of different theories as to why they have these black and white stripes. And I thought it would be quite appropriate that I name the 8 recognized theories that there are currently for zebras and their stripes. So I was actually reading this book earlier by Leo, a French biologist, who's called Leo Grasset. And he notes that in 2002, there was a zoologist by the name of Graham D. Ruxton, and he compiled a list of no fewer than 8 different theories that have been put forward to explain the origin of the zebra's unusual patterns. So, firstly, the one theory is to suggest that they camouflage, or their stripes are a form of camouflage that acts to sort of dazzle, which it forms a sort of optical illusion when they're in a group. So when they're running quickly, the stripes form a bit of an optical illusion. I think it's referred to as the stroboscopic effect. Where sometimes in movies you see a tire moving forward, and it almost looks like the tire is, or the rim of the tire is either standing still or moving backwards. So this is the stroboscopic effect, and so this acts to confuse predators and disrupt their perception. So then the predator will struggle to lock in and identify one particular zebra, and so they'd rather not waste the energy on going for a group of zebra when they need to actually lock in on one specific one. So then the second theory suggests that stripes offer camouflage in tall grass. So as you can see, some of those giraffe there in the background, if you sort of focus your attention away from the zebra for a second, and then you look again, or if you look at it in your peripherals, it almost looks like they're part of the background. You can see that there's one walking in the background there, and that zebra is actually quite well camouflaged. So the third theory suggests that stripes offer camouflage at night, because most of the zebra's predators would be your large cats, which hunt at nighttime, so lions and leopards, and then also hyena. And so because most of the predators see, or they've got very good night vision and they see in black and white, the stripes, the black and white stripes, would be advantageous to the zebra or as a sort of camouflage to protect them and to help them not be recognized or identified in the dark. So then there's a fourth theory that suggests that the stripes around the neck are a form of recognition. So it's for the members of the group to be able to identify one another. And then there's a fifth theory that suggests that the stripes enable individual members of the group to recognize one another, which is quite similar to the previous example. And then the sixth theory says that the stripes make it more difficult for predators to home in on one particular zebra when in pursuit. So again, that's also quite similar to the first example of the dazzle of camouflage. And then the seventh theory says that the stripes deter tsetse flies from landing on the animals. And so that's actually the most probable theory at the moment. They've done experiments where I think it was back in 2014 or 2015, where they tested this theory, and it seemed that they tested it against the different tsetse flies, and they see that the tsetse flies typically land on herbivores which normally have one color, and they don't have these stripes, these black and white stripes like a zebra does. And so they concluded in this experiment that the zebra stripe pattern is a very effective way of deterring the tsetse flies. So the tsetse flies, particularly the female tsetse fly, is a blood-sucking parasite. So, and they also spread lots of diseases. So it would be advantageous to the zebra to be able to deter these tsetse flies. And then lastly, there's this theory that suggests that the stripes actually dissipate heat. So because the black absorbs heat and the white reflects heat, it will form these small sort of micro air currents along the skin. And so they've actually tested this, and it seems that zebra typically have a body temperature of 3 degrees Celsius less than most herbivores. So that could also be a plausible theory, but currently the most accepted theory is the one about the tsetse fly. So the one where the theory that suggests that the stripes are actually there to deter the blood-sucking female tsetse fly. Okay, let's see what's happening at Willifants River. I believe there's a crocodile in picture. Okay, looks like we've got a singular Nile crocodile in picture along the Willifants River. So I used to work on a game reserve that was where the Willifants River ran through, which was a very special privilege. And often these crocodiles would take, so I know that at least of 2 dogs that were munched by crocodiles. So one of the managers of one of the lodges, she had 2 different dogs that were taken by, she believes, one particular crocodile, one very large crocodile. So these crocs are also known to, I know that some humans have also been taken by these crocodiles along the Willifants River. Some people that fish along some fishermen along the Willifants River, because there's obviously some very large fish which the crocodiles normally prey on, and so there was also this one incident where one of the owners of one of the lodges had decided to have a bit of a dip in the river during a very hot day, and so he had a dip with his grandson, and the croc then came up and grabbed this old man and was busy dragging him under the water. And someone had from one of the other lodges had heard his wails and cries of help, and they came with the rifle and shot the crocodile. Well, shot under the water. Obviously they struggled to see or to aim on the crocodile, so they shot under the water, and luckily one of the bullets landed, and the crocodile released the man, and fortunately the man survived, but I think he had to spend 3 months in hospital, and he lost his leg. So these crocodiles are definitely not to be messed with, and they are incredibly dangerous, and that's also part of the reason why they're very strict about fishing in game reserves. So it's actually illegal to fish in game reserves, and you need a very special permit, which is very difficult to get to fish within a game reserve. And so yes, the people, when I was working on the reserve, sometimes people would catch fish illegally, and so we'd have to reprimand them. And yeah, so there's good reasons for making the fishing illegal along this particular river. And then, of course, also overfishing, which would then take away the prey species of the crocodile and many other animals. And so it's just not sustainable the way people fish. And but there are some people that do fish along the Olifants River, particularly at an area called Three Bridges, which is which is a restaurant located along the Olifants River, and sometimes people fish there illegally, and those fish are actually their only form of subsistence in many cases of food. So it's also a difficult thing to navigate, because obviously people are just trying to get some extra protein in their diet, and yeah, it's just unfortunate that people overfish, and then which can lead to a rapid decline in the population, especially when it's not done sustainably. So I have a question here from Greg asking, are they bigger than horses? So I'm assuming that you're referring to the zebra. And no, so horses can get, or domesticated horses are able to get quite significantly larger than zebra. And this is also part of the reason why zebra have never been domesticated. It's because they're a bit slender, a bit more slender in build than a horse, and also their back muscles aren't very developed like horses. So, and also they weren't able to be domesticated because they can be very aggressive, and so there were attempts by the different colonialists during the reign of the British Empire. And so there was a particular, I think it was Lord Rothschild, that tried to domesticate them, and failed in his attempts to domesticate the zebra. But there's also some old pictures of zebra pulling a cart or a carriage through the streets of London. This must have been taken in the 1800s. But yeah, so many of the attempts were unsuccessful to domesticate the zebra. Okay, so there's also a question here about the zebra from Dale. Okay, so I believe we're going to one of our camera locations in Kenya. I didn't quite capture where, but let's head on and see what's there. Okay, looks like we've got a dazzle of zebra in picture over here. It looks like a bit of an overcast day in Tortillas camp in Kenya. So tortilis is a species of acacia, and I imagine there would be a lot of this acacia tortilis in.
When nature calls, Maui is the only answer. Satisfy your wanderlust and take to the open road in one of our fully equipped motorhomes. Boasting a fridge, gas stovetop, AC and bathroom, our motorhomes are comfortable and spacious, making any self-drive adventure in the Kruger or garden route memorable. Whether you travel alone, as a couple or the whole family, Maui has a motorhome for you. Maui, home where you roam.
For over 10 years, we have been devoted to tracking and protecting endangered mammals in South Africa. But we can't do this alone. We need your help. Join our Art for Conservation Worldwide online auction, showcasing work from incredible wildlife artists. Your winning bid contributes directly to the protection of these mammals. For more, visit voucherlegacy.co.za.
The Wild Earth Impact Foundation is a non-profit that uses the power of wildlife storytelling as a force for good. We create sustainable development projects that showcase conservation stories, empower people, and inspire environmental action. As a registered South African PBO, you can make a tax-deductible donation to the Wild Earth Impact Foundation. To find out more, visit our website.
When adventure calls, answer with Brits. Take on Southern Africa's most breathtaking landscapes from behind the wheel of a fully equipped 4x4 or SUV. From tents and bedding to a fridge and full kitchen gear, everything you need is already on board. And with 24-hour roadside assistance, you're free to go further and explore with confidence. Open roads, total freedom, no limits, just the journey ahead. Brits, equipped for adventure.
European settlers arrived in the Cape and sort of spread out from the Western and the Northern Cape regions, and they were referred to different names. The Cape Colony back in the day, and so there was just no regulations on the hunting of these beautiful animals, and unfortunately they went extinct. But there have been different attempts to bring back the subspecies of the quagga, but I believe there is one successful project. I'm not sure where exactly, but so it seems they have almost brought the quagga back from extinction. So it's quite an interesting fact. So I've got a question from Tando asking how long can a crocodile survive on dry land? And so a crocodile can survive for up to 5 days on dry land and without drinking water, but then they need to return to water. So in the drier periods of the year, or when there's a drought, they can survive for 5 days, but then after that they desperately need to get to water. So their bodies are obviously specifically adapted to survive in these moist environments, and so their bodies would probably just not function properly, and their skin would dry out, I'd imagine. So I've got a question here from Jacob asking why giraffe are considered endangered species. And so that's a very good question, Jacob. And one which I believe is due to the overhunting of giraffe in Africa. So giraffe are one of those trophy species which people like to hunt, and unfortunately, many of them are overhunted, especially the particularly strong males, and so their genes get taken out of the gene pool when they get hunted, and so they can't have new babies, which will then be genetically strong. And of course, another reason for the giraffe being endangered would be that a lot of their habitat is lost to human development, and so there's not that many areas where giraffe can just roam freely, so they're restricted to game reserves and protected areas, of which there aren't as many as there should be, and also some of the reserves are just not big enough to hold giraffe, as in the space is not big enough. So I know of some smaller game reserves where they've stocked giraffe on them, and the giraffe haven't done very well. They prefer very open areas where they can roam from tree to tree, and so which leads me to another reason why the giraffe are endangered, and of course that would be because of climate change, and so climate change can also affect the distribution of the trees, and also there's more frequent droughts, so the trees sometimes struggle in droughts, so many of them die off. So there are quite a few different reasons, and so not as many trees, not as much habitat for them to roam, and then of course them being overhunted, or so being hunted in an unsustainable way. So I hope that answers your question, Jacob. So Nicole is asking, or rather saying, hi guys, watching your live show, and then asking, is it rainy season yet? So at least in South Africa, it's in the Western Cape, where I currently stay. It's starting to become winter now, so it's now starting to rain more. So we've got a bit of a Mediterranean climate in the Western Cape, and in parts of the Northern Cape, especially along the west coast. But then for the rest of the country, for the rest of South Africa, it's now going into the dry season. So because of the high pressure cell that sits on top of South Africa over the winter, this will prevent any evaporation or moisture from condensing into clouds, so, or forming into clouds. So it's very dry in the winters in most of South Africa, but then wet in the Mediterranean, like Western Cape and Northern Cape region, especially. So when I refer to the Northern Cape, I'm referring more to the west coast of the Northern Cape. So I've got a comment here from Maz Jocks Honey. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but they say, "Morning all, we will never be able to afford to be there with you, but my wife Jo, myself, and our dog love waking up early just to watch your program. It is a calming sight to watch and sets us up for the rest of our day. Thank you all, keep safe." So thank you very much for your comment there, Maz Jocks Honey. Yeah, it's. I'm sorry that you won't be able to join us over here in Southern Africa, but hopefully maybe one day you'll be able to join. But at least we have this wonderful program where we can bring the wonderful sights and sounds and wonderful landscapes to you, the viewer, through your TV or your laptop or whatever it is. So very, very special opportunity this to glimpse into the world of the African savanna and of course the other habitats that we have at our different camera locations. Okay, so there's just another comment. So Maz Jocks Honey is from the UK. So yeah, so it's lovely that you're tuning in from the UK. Hopefully one day you'll be able to afford to come over and enjoy the wonderful African bush. Okay, let's go over to Stony Point, which is close to my valley. So we've got a rock hyrax or a Dacian picture over here. It's just busy basking in the sun. It's laying flat on the rock just now. There's another one a bit higher up that's a flat Daci, very flat and enjoying the heat emanating from the rock and the heat from the sun. So when they're not active, they spend most of their time in rock crevices like these. So you'll almost always find rock hyraxes where you find a rocky outcrop, and oh, they looks like they're playing about. These two in the front over here. So Dacies or rock hyraxes are referred to Dacies because It's actually derived from the Dutch word for a badger, which is a das, a D-A-S. And so they basically inherited this name from the Dutch settlers, that they couldn't find anything else to describe these creatures as, and so the closest description they could find was a badger, a European badger. So that's why they're referred to lovingly in South Africa as a dassie. And so I've actually, a couple of weeks ago, I visited this particular location, and so it's about an hour's drive from where I'm staying. And so you take a lovely drive along the, it's referred to as Clarence Drive, and I think it's one of the most spectacular scenic routes, I think, well, definitely in the country, in South Africa, but if not in the world. And so you take this beautiful drive along the coast of the Western Cape, and then you get to, well, if you're driving from Cape Town, and then you get to this location which is just outside Betty's Bay, called Stony Point. And so I believe it's about 50 Rand entrance, so just a couple of dollars, and you can enter this area and you can see loads of, you can see penguins, African penguins, or the jackass penguin, and you can see lots of different cormorants. There's 4 different species of cormorants there, and it's actually one of the few places in South Africa where you can see 4 different cormorant species in one location. And yeah, there's just loads of seagulls and lots of different bird species, and there's some artificial sort of I want to say it's just an artificial sort of burrow that have been created out of fiberglass for the penguins, because naturally the penguins, they make their burrows, they dig their burrows in the cement-like guano that so where they defecate, the guano becomes very hard and cement-like, and then so they then dig a burrow in the guano, and so that they've tried to mimic that through these fiberglass sort of burrows, and so fiberglass burrows, or they find a little bushy spot to so they'll nest between some bushes, some little hedge or something, and then they'll make their nest over there. They'll dig a bit of a hole and make their nest there. It's a beautiful day here at Stony Point. It's a lovely 19 degrees Celsius, which is quite warm, relatively warm for this time of year. So there's some Egyptian geese, see in picture over there. Not very easy for me to see right now. It's quite the glare from the ocean, I think, is making it a bit more difficult to see. These Egyptian geese are very charismatic animals. So I think they've got one of the biggest attitudes, especially in the bush. So I believe there's some action happening at Naledi Lodge. So let's go and see what's happening over there at Naledi. So we're here at Naledi Bush Lodge in the Kruger National Park, the Greater Kruger. And looks like we've got a heron over here stalking, looks like he's stalking something. Just moving slowly, making very calculated movements. They're walking very, very slowly to maybe try and not spook whatever it's trying to catch. So they typically, well, they're very opportunistic feeders or hunters. They will eat frogs and fish and small mammals. So anything that they can lay their large beaks on. So it looks like this is a juvenile grey heron. So the grey herons, when they're juvenile, the black on the top of their heads are not as prominent, and their yellow bills are not as prominent. So you can see this one is juvenile. It almost looks like it has ADHD. While it was busy stalking something, it realized it had a bit of an itch. Oh, there. No, not there. So I always struggle to tell the grey heron and the black-headed heron apart. But there are some features which you can look out for. And so with the grey heron, they have these black plumes. The breeding males typically have these black plumes that extend from the back of their head. So these like hairs almost that stick out, almost makes them look like they've got a bit of a mullet growing there. And then of course they've got a yellow bill. Oh, there we go. There's our heron. Lots of different herons that we get in South Africa. We get the black heron, the black-crowned night heron, the black-headed heron, Goliath heron, which is absolutely magnificent to see, absolutely huge, and the green-backed heron, the grey heron, and the little blue heron. Yeah, the list just goes on. It's the purple heron as well, the rufous-bellied heron, the squacco heron, the western reef heron, and the white-backed night heron. So we're very blessed in South Africa with the diversity of birds that we have. So in South Africa alone, we have 859 recognized species of birds, and just under 1,000 in Southern Africa. So we're incredibly blessed with the diversity of bird species in South Africa. And of course this is possible because of the many different biomes and the different habitats of the South African landscape. Okay, let's go back to Naledi, to the previous camera. Sorry, so we're back at Safari Hook in Namibia, and it's a very warm day there in Etosha, especially for winter, or at least autumn. So it's a lovely 28 degrees Celsius there, and it's nice and sunny. So these zebra are making the most of the waterhole on this lovely sunny day.
When nature calls, Maui is the only answer. Satisfy your wanderlust and take to the open road in one of our fully equipped motorhomes. Boasting a fridge, gas stovetop, AC and bathroom, our motorhomes are comfortable and spacious, making any self-drive adventure in the Kruger or garden route memorable. Whether you travel alone, as a couple or the whole family, Maui has a motorhome for you. Maui, home where you roam.
I'm Butch James, World Cup winning Springbok fly half. Rugby has taken me to many incredible places around the world, but it's Africa's wild places where I feel most at home. This July and August, after the Springbok tests against England, Wales and the All Blacks, join me on a series of luxury safaris. There we will share some rugby stories, open fires and some incredible wildlife sightings, all under the African skies. See you in the bush.
Alright then, let me show you what you're missing. Our archive allows you to delve into the past, be it yesterday or many years ago. You can visit characters who've left us.
Doesn't ever get old.
This is of course the Little Prince, Hosanna, guides who've moved on to other things.
Tingana's walking right in front of my vehicle.
These guys are the sausage tree pride.
Classic stories and wonderful moments. Wild Earth Explorers, wilder together.
When adventure calls, answer with Brits. Take on Southern Africa's most breathtaking landscapes from behind the wheel of a fully equipped 4x4 or SUV. From tents and bedding to a fridge and full kitchen gear, everything you need is already on board. And with 24-hour roadside assistance, you're free to go further and explore with confidence. Open roads, total freedom, no limits, just the journey ahead. Brits, equipped for adventure.
So I hope the previous answer answered your question. So normally the herons are solitary and or generally speaking, they're solitary, and then the storks they rely on more group feeding, and so they're normally seen in groups. So I have a question here from Grace. She was asking about the dassies, and she asked, how do they climb steep rocks so well without slipping? And so the dassies, they've got flat, rubbery soles which help them grip rock surfaces. And so yeah, their feet and the soles are specifically adapted to them, for them to be able to grip these rocky surfaces. So Grace is asking whether you get all white or all black zebras, and that's a very good question. So I believe you do. I'd have to do a bit more research, but Yeah, I would imagine that the all black zebra would be a very rare thing to occur, and that would be due to an abnormality in the gene that produces melatonin, which is responsible for that black coloration that you see. So, or the black pigment. So that's melatonin, and so I'd imagine that there would be some sort of mutation on that particular gene that codes for the pigmentation of the skin. So then I think the all white zebra would be a form of albinism, so it would be a zebra which would then lack the ability to code for that the black coloration. So I imagine it would also have a mutation which would make it fail at producing that melatonin. So then it would be all white and definitely stick out like a sore thumb in the wild. Okay, I see we've got another heron in picture, another grey heron. So grey herons are definitely the most common of the herons that you see in South Africa. I can't really speak too much for the other Southern African countries because I'm yet to visit many of them. I visited Namibia back in 2002 for a karate tournament, which was lovely, and we visited Dune 7, which at the time was the 7th highest dune in the world, and we got to climb that, but I'm not sure whether it still is because the dunes are constantly changing form and shape because of the wind. So yeah, absolutely lovely. We visited Walvis Bay and Windhoek, Windhoek being the capital of Namibia, and yeah, we didn't get to do too much wildlife viewing, but it was a very wonderful tour indeed. And we drove through Botswana to get there, but we drove through there at night time, which can be incredibly dangerous driving through Botswana at night because of the kudus and the elephants that roam freely on the roads, on the national roads. So because there's so few fences in Botswana to keep the animals from getting harmed, from being hit by cars and that, so it becomes a real danger. Okay, let's see what's happening at Camphor's Dam in Kimberley. Okay, so we're at Camphor's Dam in Kimberley at the moment. So I see there's quite a bit of water, so fortunately it's rained there quite recently. Sometimes it can be very dry there. It looks like we've got some, can't identify which ducks we have in picture. A bit difficult for me to see, but so this Camphor's Dam typically has flamingos, or it's known to have many flamingos which flock here, and so it's very special to see when you just see this pink sort of dazzle of flamingos. But unfortunately we don't have any in view at the moment. So I've got a comment here from Dennis saying that my dream is to see a shoe bull, a type of stork, if I'm not mistaken. So I'm not sure whether a shoe bull is considered a stork. I'll have to do a bit of research, but I also would absolutely love to see a stork. Such incredible birds, just these massive bills that are obviously shaped as like a shoe, hence the name, and I believe you find them in countries like DRC, Democratic Republic of Congo, and more your central regions of Africa. And there's a lot of superstition surrounding these shoebills, and yeah, just really interesting looking birds with these very large eyes which almost look human-like, and which I imagine looks like they, well, just from the pictures that I've seen, it looks like they're almost staring into your soul. Okay, so Dennis, to answer your question, just had a look here now, and it says that shoebill is not a true stork, even though it looks very similar, but it belongs to its own unique family called Balanicipitidae. Sure, it's quite a mouthful. So it's actually, they're more closely related to the African pelicans and herons than they are to storks. So that's, see there, I also learned something new. So thanks for your question, Dennis. So it looks like, so one of the questions is asking, or Sarah is asking the question, is a grebe a species by itself? So it does belong to its own family, Podicipidae, or I'm not even sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly, but it includes 22 different species around the world. And so in South Africa, we've got the black-necked grebe, the great crested grebe, and the little grebe. And I think we have the little grebes in frame at the moment, but it's very difficult for me to decipher what they are, because I can only really make out the silhouettes. But yeah, so grebes occur all over the world, and so they're expert divers, and they use their feet, not their wings, to swim underwater, and their feet are lobed, or lobed, shall I say, rather than webbed, which helps them with propulsion, and they often build floating nests on the water. Okay, I believe there's something at Roy's Dam, so let's go and check that out. Okay, wow, we've got an absolutely magnificent sighting over here at Roy's Dam in the Sabi Sand Reserve. So we've got a giant kingfisher in picture, absolutely beautiful bird, one of my favorites. That's caught quite a large fish, and I was trying to, it's now knocking it against the branches to try and kill it, to knock it unconscious. So, yeah, I think he's pretty dead, buddy. I don't think you have to knock him anymore. But I imagine it's quite difficult for him to swallow such a large fish. Because of course, birds don't have teeth like humans do, so they have to swallow their prey whole, or swallow the food that they eat whole. And whereas humans, we can at least chew our food into smaller bits, which then helps with digestion, so that creating a larger surface area for our enzymes and digestive juices to get to work. But the birds don't have that luxury of teeth to kind of cut their foods into bits. And these giant kingfishers are a particularly special bird for me, because the bird actually reminds me of my dad, who passed away a few years ago. And not long after he passed away, there was a giant kingfisher that flew very close to the veranda of the house that I was staying in, and it was almost as if my dad was visiting me from, yeah, it was just very special to see. And I definitely believe birds have some spiritual significance. Oh, I see he's now finally managing to swallow that massive fish, or massive for his body size. Sure, that is just absolutely remarkable. Very, very special to see. Great job by our zoomies, all the cameramen that are working hard behind the scenes to capture these magnificent sightings. Wow, and just like that, the fish is now in this giant kingfisher's tummy. He probably won't need to eat for quite a while with that massive meal. And you can see their special adaptation is that they've got a very long and sharp beak for fishing. So hence the name kingfisher. They are expert fishermen. But not all kingfishers eat fish. So you get some that are more specialized in eating insects and other organisms, but your giant kingfisher would typically take fish or frogs, or possibly even small mammals and small reptiles. So they've also got quite a diverse diet. So I've got a question here from Jace asking, could the kingfisher choke if the prey is too big? And so I had to check that up because I wasn't sure. But the way that the kingfisher normally reduces the risk of choking is by beating the prey against, as you can see, the branch over there to try and stun or kill it. So beat it unconscious, and then so it can't be a potential choking hazard. And then so they normally swallow the fish or their prey head first. So with the fish's fins and spines fold backward instead of catching in the throat. So they've got different mechanisms to ensure that they don't choke, but sometimes they could choke if the prey is too large. So yes, that is possible. But I imagine that they would be quite efficient at like regurgitating the fish if it's too large. And sometimes the sharp spines of the fish can get stuck or lodged in their throat, which can cause some harm. And this normally happens when the bird misjudges the size of the fish. It almost looked as if that fish that it caught was a bit too large for it, but it did manage to swallow it nonetheless. So I've got a comment here from from Dennis saying that they put the fish in efficient. So thanks, Dennis, for that awesome joke. Yeah, I need to actually tell my my wildlife jokes or my dad jokes. I haven't for a while, so I definitely need to tell one before the end of the show. So one of my favorite or dad jokes or wildlife jokes is so the one time I got attacked by a wildebeest, but another wildebeest came along to my aid and rescued me. There's good news and there's bad news. Okay, it looks like we've got I think it's a purple heron in picture. Looks like today is definitely a day for the birds. Lots of cool and interesting bird sightings. And yeah, interestingly enough, I also often think of my dad when I see a heron. And yeah, it's just very special if you can make that connection with your loved ones, your deceased loved ones, and wildlife. And I often make those connections. Of course, not everyone is spiritual or believes in a particular faith, but I think just being in nature itself is quite a spiritual and amazing experience. So I've got a question here from Hannah asking, why is it called a purple heron? And so that's a good question because it doesn't actually look very purple in this particular lighting, but if you use your imagination, you could imagine why the people who named it said it's purple. And so it's actually more like a reddish brown chestnut with grayish purple tones around its neck, but yeah, so it's actually not strictly purple, but I imagine in some lights it looks a bit more purple than in others. There we've lost visual of our purple heron now. But on the theme of today, on the theme of adaptations or animal adaptations in particular, I just think it's also quite remarkable how elephants are able to communicate with these subsonic sounds. So at these noise, or they're able to pick up on noises and sounds that humans aren't able to hear. Oh, I see we've got another bird in picture here. Looks like a crake, if I'm not mistaken, a black crake. But he's moving very quickly, so it's difficult to see now. Beautiful little water birds, the black crakes are. Okay, let's go over to Victoria Falls and see what's happening over there.
When nature calls, Maui is the only answer. Satisfy your wanderlust and take to the open road in one of our fully equipped motorhomes. Boasting a fridge, gas stovetop, AC and bathroom, our motorhomes are comfortable and spacious, making any self-drive adventure in the Kruger or garden route memorable. Whether you travel alone, as a couple or the whole family, Maui has a motorhome for you. Maui, home where you roam.
Would you like to know what an elephant's favorite food is? You could ask me questions like that in real time. Our safaris are live and interactive from the heart of Africa. The Fortunas over here. Watch Safari Live and connect with nature.
When adventure calls, answer with Brits. Take on Southern Africa's most breathtaking landscapes from behind the wheel of a fully equipped 4x4 or SUV. From tents and bedding to a fridge and full kitchen gear, Everything you need is already on board. And with 24-hour roadside assistance, you're free to go further and explore with confidence. Open roads, total freedom, no limits, just the journey ahead. Brits, equipped for adventure.
So I've got a question here from Charmaine asking if I've ever heard of the new Big Five of wildlife photography. So I have not, Charmaine. Would you please enlighten me? I have no idea what the new Big Five is of wildlife photography. So these Hammerkop, they actually build one of the largest nests of any bird species that you find in South Africa. They build these incredibly large nests. I think only the sociable weaver builds larger nests, and they are, hence the name, very sociable, so they occur in these very large flocks. And so these Hammerkop, just the male and female build the nest, and so they can get really, really large, and oftentimes you'll see other birds bullying them away from their nests and using their nests. So some raptors, like African fish eagles and that, might evict the Hammerkop from their own nest, and almost like the buildings in Hillbrow get hijacked. These Hammerkops lose their homes. Okay, so I've got an answer over here. So the new Big Five of wildlife photography, it was launched to promote conservation over hunting, are the African elephant, the lion, polar bear, gorilla, and tiger. So this international initiative, voted on by thousands, replaces the traditional hunting-focused Big Five. So indeed, the original Big Five that was coined back in the days when hunting was very big, especially amongst the different colonists that arrived in Africa. And so the Big Five is sometimes seen as, well, it was adopted by many safari lodges and that to promote the magnificent large animals that you can see. So the Big Five, obviously being the lion, elephant, rhino, buffalo, and leopard. So they were, back in the day when hunting was still big, they were the 5 most difficult animals to hunt on foot. And so now, recently, it's taken on a new meaning as the Big Five, most wonderful animal species in the African bush to photograph. So I imagine that this new Big Five wouldn't be great for marketing for many of these Southern African or African lodges, because they would rely on the original Big Five to promote their businesses of seeing Big Five animals on their game reserves. And okay, so I believe there's something happening there at Safari Hook, so let's go and check it out. Okay, looks like we've got another heron in shot. I can't make out if it's a grey heron or looks like a grey heron. We've got a grey heron in shot over here. Looks like it's perched on an old leadwood. So, or maybe even an old, I have to think of another tree that, knobthorn. It could be also perched on a knobthorn, an old knobthorn. So these trees, they tend to still be standing long after they've died. So they've got incredibly dense wood. Okay, there you can clearly see that it's a grey heron. You can see those black stripes on its neck and the yellowish bill. And if you look quite carefully, you can see that it's got that little mullet at the back, those like plumes that stick out at the back of the head. And so I imagine the longer and bigger the mullet, the more impressive the heron. So much like in Western Australia, the more impressive the male's mullet, the more attractive he is to a potential female companion. Stretching out its very magnificent long neck. And as we mentioned, they tuck their necks in when they fly. So that's one of the characteristics that you can look at when they're flying, which to tell the difference between a stork and a heron. You just can't get enough of these beautiful, magnificent elephants. And so you can see this is quite an old elephant. I can't yet tell whether it's a male or female. Okay, it looks like a male, just judging by the curvature of the forehead. So it's got a very rounded forehead as opposed to the more angular foreheads of the, or foreheads of the females. And then if you also look at the temples, they're very sunken in. So and there's a bit of a indentation on the back. So those are ways of telling the age of an elephant. So the deeper the temporal indentations, the older they are, and also the deeper the indentation on their spines, on their backs, the older they are. So another way you can also look at, or the other way you can age the elephants is by looking at their ears. So elephant ears grow continuously throughout their lives. And so the bigger they get, at the top of the ears, they start to fold in on themselves. So when they've got very deep folds, then you know it's quite an old elephant, because the ears are basically too big to just extend out, so they've basically folded back in on themselves. And then so usually elephants, they only live to about 60 years old in the wild, and this is because of nature's way of ensuring that they only get 6 sets of teeth in their lifetime. So once the 6th set is worn down, which is normally around the time they're 60 years old, they basically die of starvation. So it's evolution's cruel way of ensuring that the elephants die naturally. And so normally the elephants, they don't have many natural predators. So some lions are able to take the baby elephants, and then of course humans are also a predator of the elephants. But other than that, they don't. There's nothing that's really capable of taking these large beasts down. They have incredibly thick skin, so up to 3 centimeters in many places. But on their ears is where you'll find the skin is the thinnest. And this is because they've got many capillaries, many veins and arteries in their ears. You can almost see it when you look at the elephant now. And so these arteries and veins, they ensure that blood is pumping through those ears constantly. And so basically all the blood in an elephant's body will travel to the ears within a 20-minute period. So it's just absolutely incredible. And also in order to pump this blood so quickly and so forcefully, it has to have a very large heart. And so their hearts can weigh up to 20 kilograms, which is just, I mean, it's literally the size of a little human. So it's actually just phenomenal. So also, if you look at the elephant closely, you'll notice there's lots of, their skin is very wrinkly, lots of sort of indentations in their skin. And this isn't any indication of how old an elephant is. So even when they're born, they have these wrinkles. And so this is actually to increase the surface area, or the surface area to volume ratio of the elephant, so that they're able to dissipate their heat. They're able to lose their heat a lot easier than if they had a higher volume to surface area ratio. But unfortunately, because they have so many wrinkles and that, there's a lot of ticks and other parasites that can sometimes get into those crevices, those indentations, and they can they can irritate the skin of the elephant. So you can see how it's using its trunk. It's not able to drink water or put water directly into its mouth when it drinks, so it has to use its trunk in order to suck up the water and then to release it into its mouth. So the trunk of the elephant is actually so it's actually a modified upper lip and nose. So the elephants have evolved to have their nose and their upper lip combine into this magnificent, long, and very muscular trunk that we see. And so the trunks, they've got loads of different uses. So they're used as snorkels when they're traveling through deep water. They're used as a breathing apparatus, so they breathe through their trunks. They use it to pick up very small objects, so they've got two finger-like projections that at the tip of their trunks, which are able to pick up things as small as a pencil or a little twig. And they're also able to trumpet through their trunks, so create very loud and intimidating noises to intimidate their any potential threats to them. Okay, it looks like this, it's just such a beautiful bull, this. Not the most impressive tusks, but he is just absolutely beautiful. Getting quite close to this camera right now. So I had a question from Dennis asking, do any other animals use this ear conditioning technique? So what Dennis is referring to is how the elephants, they flap their ears to cool themselves off, or they keep their ears close to their bodies on a colder day to make sure that there's that thermal layer that can capture a layer of air between their ears and the skin on their shoulders, and then they warm up that air through their body heat, and then it creates like a little warm air insulation layer. So to get back to your question, Dennis, so there are some other animals that do use this technique. So there are some fox species, particularly the Phoenix fox, that has huge ears, and also if you look at the bat-eared fox, they also have very, very large ears, and so the large ears are for detecting prey mostly, but one could argue that it's also a form of thermoregulation. And then also you have your Cape hare, which also has very large ears in order to cool itself off. And then if you also think of other animals in South Africa, for example, or Southern Africa, you'd maybe, okay, there's also another indication that this is a male. He's got a fifth leg over there. So an African wild dog is also considered an animal that uses its ears for thermoregulation. So they've got these very large and rounded ears that help to release heat while they're running these long distances. So there's quite a few different examples. So Mayesh SA says, Johan, this elephant looks in good shape, marvelous sighting. Absolutely, yeah, definitely in good condition, and yeah, unfortunately he's left our view now, but what a beautiful bull, young bull, or relatively young, because he's got quite deep indentations on his temples. So there you can kind of see the indentation, or how the skin flaps backwards. The ears, they start to fold backwards as they get older. It's a nice view of that. Okay, let's go over to Safari Hook in Etosha. Let's see what's happening over there. Okay, so we've got some brindled gnus, or some blue wildebeest in picture over here. We've got a harem in shot. So wildebeest, they have a social structure which is referred to as a harem, and which basically means that there's one dominant male with a group of females, and they're young. Unfortunately, we're just experiencing a bit of technical difficulties, but we'll soon get back to Safari Hook. Okay, there we go. Now we've got our visual back. I'm just momentarily experiencing some difficulties there. But now we've got our brindled gnu, brindled referring to those very faint stripes on their shoulders, sort of the front half of their bodies. And then gnu, because of the noise they make. It's an onomatopoeic sound or onomatopoeic word. So I actually quite like the name brindled gnu. It's more descriptive of the wildebeest. So Ahmed was asking, are newborn elephants smooth? And so they are softer and less wrinkled, but they still do have wrinkles, just not as many as the older ones would. And this is because they're still quite small in size, so they don't need as many wrinkles to dissipate their body heat. So if you look at the wildebeest, it's quite difficult to tell the male and the female apart. But with wildebeest, you look at their horns, because the male and the female have horns, but the males generally have horns which extend further past their ears than the females do. So if you can try and see which individual over here is the male, because it's not that easy to tell right now as they're all walking away. But yeah, the male is typically has slightly larger horns and with a bit more of a boss, so it's got an area in between the two horns which is hardened.
When nature calls, Maui is the only answer. Satisfy your wanderlust and take to the open road in one of our fully equipped motorhomes. Boasting a fridge, gas stovetop, AC and bathroom, our motorhomes are comfortable and spacious, making any self-drive adventure in the Kruger or garden route memorable. Whether you travel alone, as a couple or the whole family, Maui has a motorhome for you. Maui, home where you roam. When adventure calls, answer with Brits. Take on Southern Africa's most breathtaking landscapes from behind the wheel of a fully equipped 4x4 or SUV. From tents and bedding to a fridge and full kitchen gear, everything you need is already on board. And with 24-hour roadside assistance, you're free to go further and explore with confidence. Open roads, total freedom, no limits, just the journey ahead. Brits, equipped for adventure.
Cleaning up the environment by making sure all the rotting flesh is removed from a carcass. So they have these very long necks, which are featherless, or they've got very little, or they've got just a little bit of down on their necks, and this is so that their their feathers don't get covered with blood. So it is also to ensure that there's no parasites in that or bacteria that can get in between the feathers of their necks. So, and then they've got these incredibly powerful beaks, which are used to tear through very thick hides. So their beaks are very well adapted to tearing through very thick hides and flesh, and so they're able to get nice big juicy chunks of meat from a carcass. And then they've got an incredibly large wingspan, some of the largest wingspans of any birds. And so this is so that they can ride those thermal, they refer to them as thermals, but basically hot air pockets that rise. And so they basically ride these thermal pockets. And that's why you'll see them sometimes circling and not flapping so much, but they're just soaring through these thermals. So the large wingspan would help in ensuring maximum surface area so that they can ride the thermals. So I think it's unlikely that we'll see our spotted hyena today. So the last of the ugly five that we would have needed to see today. But it's been an incredible show nonetheless. We've seen lots of big birds, lots of small birds, and we've seen some elephant and 4 of the ugly five. We've seen just some beautiful dazzles of zebra and journeys of giraffe, and it's just been an absolutely wonderful show. And it's just been a real privilege to be here today, to be able to present the show to you. And so I got a last comment over here from Tim saying, thank you for a very insightful waterhole show. So it's an absolute pleasure, Tim. I appreciate you watching, and be sure to tune in next time. Hopefully we see some more predators, maybe some big cats. So I'd like to end off with saying, have a lovely long weekend to those in South Africa. Enjoy your public holiday on Monday, your Freedom Day. And until next time, have an awesome one.